The Chicago Bulls are continuing on through their NBA draft process. And y'all know as they're continuing their process, Shy Bulls Podcast will continue our process of evaluating prospects who could potentially end up a Chicago Bull in this year's NBA 2025 draft. So on today's episode, we're going to talk about Noa Essengue. Should the Chicago Bulls take a chance on an international player? Y'all know we're going to talk about it and break it down, but you got to hear the music first. Cognac gang. Shy Boys Podcast with the Cognac Boys. I'm Cognac Boy Bobby, and I'm holding it down on today's daily episode. So if you're tuned in with me today, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for all your latest things on the Chicago Bulls. But continuing on and talking about the draft process and looking at what the Chicago Bulls are hinting at, today I want to talk about a prospect in Noa Essengue, Frenchman who played in the German BBL. Yes, you heard that correctly. It's called the German BBL. But hey, when you're looking at this guy, comes in about 6'9", 6'10", 200 and about 200 pounds, about that. Some have him listed at 198. But this is a guy that's going to be one of those wings up in the NBA. That's what they got him listed as, and that's what we're going to consider him. He is a little light, but definitely can be utilized in certain ways depending on the skill set. When you look around and you see like some of the comparisons, they have him compared to guys like Nicholas Batum and an Al-Farouq Aminu type of player. Some mocks, if you go and you do a little due diligence on that, they have him potentially ending up a Toronto Raptor at 9. I even seen him being placed at 11 to Portland. I seen him go to the Chicago Bulls at 12. I seen some mocks have him potentially ending up a San Antonio Spur at 14 and going as far back as 18 to the Washington Wizards. Now, if you're a Chicago Bulls guy and you've been doing your due diligence, diving into some of these NBA prospects who could potentially end up a Chicago Bull, you can view this guy as being a reach at 12 because there are some prospects that are out there that you know a little bit more about than Noa Essengue. And I could admit he does have some raw talent, but he has some things that you can really, really like about this player. And you can absolutely take a chance if you would like to. Not the route that I would necessarily go with, but hey, we seen AK in the Bulls front office take chances before. Now, we talk about this man playing in the German BBL. He averaged about 23 minutes given the ULM, because the first name, I ain't going to lie to y'all. I ain't even try to butcher it. We just going to call it the ULM. But he gave them 23 minutes, 12 points, 5 rebounds on 56% shooting from the field, 29% shooting from the three, which is not bad. And if you go out there and you look at some of the tape, some of the things that I personally liked about him was his ability to finish around the rim. He was able to go out there and use his length, his athleticism to move up and down the court pretty damn smoothly and look like he belonged. That is a different type of league, but you look at those things and say, hey, these things could be useful. The way that he was able to finish around the rim, the way he was able to have a little bit of patience on certain things when it came to certain possessions and be able to put the ball in the basket, even being able to absorb some type of contact. I do wonder with the length and the size, with the size that he is, how would he be able to adjust to the NBA game for the sake of the Chicago Bulls? Another thing that I like was his recovery on defense. The recovery on defense looks pretty damn good, and I think that this is a versatile defender that you can absolutely utilize. I don't necessarily always agree with people saying putting on extra weight, but I would imagine that if somebody's going to be looking at to play him at the 4, they will have some type of plan to add on just a few pounds. But the question is how many pounds and how well will he be able to move with that added weight on him? But his recovery on the defensive side allows him to utilize his athleticism to block shots, to be able to recover when guys blow past him. He does that pretty well. You do want to see a little bit more of that. you know what I'm saying, stand in front of that player a little bit better. But hey, if you're gonna allow guys to blow by you, you know what I'm saying, if you're able to recover, hey, you could create some type of advantage for your team if you're able to be very, very consistent at those things and also improve on some of those deficiencies. I like his ability to be able to make the easy pass. I'm not saying he's out there to be a great playmaker, but you see at times him utilize his athleticism to going out there, and where he's utilizing that athleticism to get to the basket. If a guy's crashing down on him, he has the IQ to say, all right, I'm going to dump it off to the open man, or I'm going to go ahead and help my teammate get an easy basket. That was one of the things that I liked about him, when it was him coming down to drawing that extra defender or getting in a little bit of a, you know what I'm saying, a little bit of crowded area. He was able to help his teammates to go out there and create the easy shot or be able to make the easy bucket. And this athleticism, I think that his athleticism is maybe not one of the best world athletes, but I think is good enough. I think he has some athleticism that'll be able to help him thrive in the NBA. It's all about how he puts those things together. He has a decent handle. I would say that that's there. Could use a little bit of work there. You want to see with a guy like with size like that, to see how he's able to manipulate the paint a little bit more. If we're going to start, looking at some things we can knock him on. But I think this is a really good prospect to look at. Because don't get it messed up, I do still have some questions about him. I do want to see how can he be able to stretch the floor a little bit more for the said team. And that doesn't necessarily mean that he has to be exclusively a 3-and-D type of wing, but how do you be able to move out from under the basket? Now, I will give him credit. He does have some a 3-point shot. You do want to see the percentage increase. You do want to see more consistency at that, but he is very, very capable at doing that. I think that there's going to be question marks about how does he fit on a particular team, and I think the fit for a particular team is going to matter for him right now, as raw as he is as a prospect. But I think that he comes in with a lot of good tools, and I think one of the best things that you already got is that solid defender. He's a solid defender. I would say solid. I don't want to go out there and say elite. I don't want to go out there and say all time. I would say solid, because when you move on and you move up into a different league to where they play at a faster pace, they play a different style of basketball, he's going to have to adjust. So my question is how well can he improve as an on-ball defender? Because if you go out there and you become a liability, you're not going to always be able to rely on that recovery that he's good at to go out there and be that person that you need on the defensive side of the ball to help your team get stops. So it's going to be how well can he go in to help his team be able to help himself to be a better team defender as well as an on-ball defender, because it's too many good guards in this league. It's too many good forwards in this league that can just blow right past him. And hey, that opens things up. Sometimes you're gonna think they're going for the lay, but they're gonna be throwing it right to that corner, and that ball gonna be swinging. It's gonna be an open 3 somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be interesting to see for my man's Noa Essengue to see how well he can adjust. I think that he still has some growing to do. I still think that he can, touch up on some things, but he does come in with some good tools as an NBA prospect. Does he necessarily fit with what I'm looking for the Chicago Bulls? Maybe in some aspects, but does he fit with the Chicago Bulls is what they're going to have to figure out. He does have some switchability on the defensive side. He does have a chance to go out there and improve his 3-point shot. I wish Peter Patton was still in the building, but he's no longer here. So which of our coaches is going to help him improve that 3-point shot and get a little get more consistent in that? Or does he have within whatever the plan is, does the coaching staff, if he was selected, have more of an intention of saying, hey, we don't necessarily need you to go out there and shoot a bunch of threes, but let's hit a couple of them, you know what I'm saying, and work on that. But then also let's add an ability to hit some quick bunnies, the quick floaters, the 15-foot jumpers, something like that to add to his offensive game, because I think that's where he needs a lot of work at, which is that offensive side of the ball. Now, when you talk about the Chicago Bulls, in their case, And there's going to be pushback from some fans to be like, no, we don't want to take a project, because we look at projects and some of them haven't panned out. Some of them have, more so than not. But I say you ain't had, every player is not the same. You don't necessarily know how players are going to always pan out in this league. It's on the player, but it's also on the coaching staff. It has to be some type of relationship amongst the two, to where you can see how well you can get a player to play. I do say this guy will bring a lot of size to the Chicago Bulls, which is a good thing and what we need in that front court if the Bulls elected to have him play the four. I know I'm not saying that he's this player, but if you look at Chet Holmgren, he has the size, maybe not the most, you know what I'm saying, strongest guy out there, but he's very, very capable of playing the four for OKC. I'm not saying that this guy is that player, and I'm not putting that type of expectation on him. I'm just saying, if he's able to come in and be able to withstand, the pressures and the physicality of the game at his size, maybe adding a few pounds wouldn't be, maybe you don't have to add so many pounds if he's able to hold on to, and be able to battle with some of that physicality that he's going to expect if you bring him in to play the four spot. I don't necessarily know what it'll look like if he was going out there as a 6'10 center. That's something I will kind of stay away from, but he does bring some solid rebounding. I think it can improve. I think he can pick his spots a little bit better, but I seen, my mans be able to get in the passing lanes and help create steals for not only himself and others. And off some of those steals, he's able to pick the rock up and get right down court, and the athleticism takes over and he's able to finish at the rim. So again, a lot of good stuff about him with some knocks. No prospect coming into this perfect unless you looking at the generational talent. So, hey, we can see what the Chicago Bulls are going to do with it. And they have taken chances with the developmental pieces, bro. They have taken chances with the developmental pieces. It's not necessarily the route that I will be going with the 12th pick. But again, we don't make the decisions. I just hope that the decisions that they do make sense for the sake of the team and help us take a step forward. I want to take steps forward and I want to improve this team. Now, if there's some guy that, hey, I'm just saying, if the Chicago Bulls, if you get to a situation where you say, nah, we're going to pass on him and at 12 and select somebody else, and he's there at, let's say, 20, 22, and you got a deal on the table to where you can move up and potentially grab him, I will consider that. I will feel more confident in that type of situation, but I'm not going to sell him short to say that as the 12th pick, he can't come in and be a player that can be impactful for the Chicago Bulls. I wouldn't sell him, you know what I'm saying? Because you don't know how most of these guys are going to pan out, especially when you picking later in the rounds. So, and we know that a lot of our later picks outside of recently Ayo Dosunmu and Julian Phillips, they are able to get some time and not just get shipped straight to the G League. Because we seen us draft Justin Lewis, Adama Sanogu, Marko Simonovic in those later rounds, and those guys just pretty much rot in the G League. So we'll see what the kid is made of. Like I said, I like the prospect. I think it's something that you could consider. I'm not willing to take the chance at 12 right now. I want to see a little bit more from him, hear a little bit more about him. But I will say the man comes in with a lot of tools. And if you believe that you could develop him, I think he could be a really good basketball player for whatever team that he goes to, simply because the length, the athleticism, the defensive versatility, the shot blocking ability, if all those things get fine-tuned and he's able to add more consistent play on the offensive side, he could be a hell of a player for a team. Not going out there listing ceilings. Relax. Not listing ceilings. But I think that he could be a really good player if he goes to the right situation. But that is it for me today, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of Shy Bulls Podcast. Before y'all get up out of here, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well. If you want to call in and be a part of the mailbag, the lines are open. The number to do so is 773-242-9219. I appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all always see red, and you already know I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure.
Cognac.